Hi, Verbling. My name is Michaela. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. And today we're talking about book excerpts. Sorry, I'm a little distracted because my microphone is not working out like I thought. Anna Carolina, welcome to class.
Thank you a lot, Michaela. I'm looking forward to your classes today.
Excellent. Yeah, I usually don't do classes on Sunday, but I had a little extra time and I thought, why not? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you crystal clear, and I'm very happy that you had the extra time to teach us.
Me
Thank you
too.
very much.
Good to have you here. And Anatoly, welcome to class.
Hello, thank you very much.
What's your plan for Sunday, Anatoly?
Only plan to sleep because
Sleep
for
and
me
study?
it is evening, yes.
Ah, I see. All right. Well, that's a good plan. Sleep is great. Ksenia, welcome to class.
Hello.
How are you doing, Ksenia? Did you do anything fun today?
Not fun, but I hit McDonald's, so I had a great dinner for me.
Excellent.
Yes.
And now, welcome to class.
Hi. How are you?
Good. How are you? How's your Sunday going?
The Sunday will finish soon in here. It was rainy day, so I just I sat on the sofa all day, watched TV.
Excellent. And Ahmed, welcome to class. I can't hear you, Ahmed. If you need help.
Hello, how are you?
Hello. Good, how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you.
Awesome. So everyone's here, everyone's mic is working. Let's start talking about books. And the first thing I want to know is what makes a good story or a good book? And let's start with now. What do you think makes a good story or a good book?
Good book is good to action. I'm not sure.
Action? Like what kind of action?
No, construction.
Oh, construction. So what do you think is a good construction? What parts are there?
I cannot consume. I don't know. I cannot imagine the end. The situation is changed and suddenly change.
Yeah, it's important that it's not predictable or you're still surprised. Definitely. Ksenia, what do you think makes good literature or a good story?
For me, it's writing style. It should be very smoothly for me to reading, not without a big amount of difficult words in it. It's also necessary for me.
Okay. And corrections there. I'm going to put in the chat box for you guys. So you don't like to read things that are like, say, more formal? Is that what you're saying, Ksenia?
Sorry, can you repeat?
You don't like to read very formal literature?
Yes, with a lot of old words from the past. Right now, I'm reading something like that. It's for me it's very difficult because I read it in English. It's also very difficult.
Yeah. All right. Carolina, welcome to class.
Hello.
Hello,
Can you hear
Carolina.
me?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly. So what makes a good story or good literature? Something you like to read?
I don't know. I am not into reading, but when I read, I prefer to read something like mysterious, or I don't know, maybe drama.
Something with a lot of suspense and mystery. That sounds nice. Anatoly, how
Yeah.
about you? What makes a good story or good literature?
I think the plot is very important, and subject of the book. For example, for biography is very important if this person is interesting or not interesting for me. For historical novel, period of time is interesting or not interesting.
So
This
what
one.
makes someone's life interesting or not interesting?
For example, if I interested in studying history, ancient Rome, I could choose something about that period of time.
Mm-hmm, definitely. All right, thanks, Anatoly. Anna Carolina, what do you think makes good literature or a good story?
Okay, at the tone that it conveys, I have a huge taste in books. I read from mystery to self-improvement books, but I like the climax, when it has a great climax, and um, I like when it's based on real life. For me, it's more interesting. And the language, the use of the descriptive adjectives and adverbs, some figurative languages, metaphors, and those things.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and the moral. If the story has a moral, it's better. And I don't like when it's very difficult to understand. I think it's boring when the language is too much formal.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
I cannot I I cannot understand, and I fall asleep.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And Ahmed, what do you think makes a good story or good literature?
Um, Actually, I like type of stories that give me a lot of knowledge, that help me to know more about other cultures, other people habits. So I like these types of stories.
Yeah, something exotic or unique. Cool. And Diana? Is that how I would say your name?
Yes, Diana.
Welcome to class. Can you tell us what you think would make a good story or literature? What are the qualities that those things have?
The qualities for a good story.
Yeah, like what makes you like a book or not like a book?
Yes, I like to read, and I think that the good qualities should be a good story and also a good description about all that happened in the story or in the time that the story was writing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So I agree with a lot of what you guys said. I know that things that are super formal tend to be pretty boring. Also, I have a problem specifically with books that start off with a lot of setting. So you'll be reading a 400-page book, and the first 200 pages are them kind of just describing like the land and the intricacies of the characters, which is obviously important information, but it's like they don't give you any plot until 100 or 200 pages in, so it's kind of hard to get through that first section, and sometimes that's where I'm kind of like, ugh, I don't care anymore. Now, it doesn't happen. Usually I try to finish a book if I start it, but every once in a while I'm like, 200 pages of setting? No, stop. All right. I'm going to screen share the notes, and you guys should also be able to access them on the class page blue link below where it says, or where it has a little screen for class. And let's see. Stop it. Here we go. Okay, so today I'm sharing little sections of several books that I really like and authors that are some of my favorites. And we're going to read through them, talk about some of what's good or bad in these sections, match them to what you guys think they are, like which book you think they are, and I'm going to copy paste your options into the chat box so that you know. And then we'll go on and you guys can tell me a little more about what you guys like. So you can check out those options in either of the chat boxes. And keep those in mind as we're reading through. All right. There are different colored sections. Everyone's going to get a different section. And the options we have to match these paragraphs with are Kurt Vonnegut's A Man Without a Country, Joseph Heller's Catch-22, O. Henry, Hostage to Momus, Jane Austen, Persuasion, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, 100 Years of Solitude, and Mark Twain, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. All amazing authors. And let's start on the right with Now. Can you read number 1, which is the pink section?
Okay. He dug so deeply into her sentiments that in search of interest he found love, because by trying to make her love him, he ended up falling in love with her. Butler Coates, for her part, loved him more and more as she felt his love increasing, and that was how, in the ripeness of autumn, she began to believe once more in the useful superstition that poverty was the servitude of love.
Yeah, that's a tough section. There's a lot of advanced vocabulary words there, but you did a great job reading that.
Mm-hmm.
And David, welcome to class. David, are you there? Maybe he's still loading up. David, you're muted.
Yeah. Hi. How are you?
Good. How are you, David?
I'm great.
Awesome. So quickly, before we get back into our exercise, tell us what you think makes a good story or literature.
Okay. I start, yeah. I can listen no longer in silence.
Oh, hold on.
Oh, sorry.
Tell us what you think makes a good story or literature.
Oh, well, for me, the most interesting stories is about the culture Greek or the ancient Greek or Roman stories. I like to read something about that.
Like mythology?
No, I think in that period, the Greek or Roman culture talk about the character of the people, and in nowadays we can talk about the same. No, it's very interesting. Maybe a little psychological ways, but I think in the past and now we have the same character. This is my idea to learn about the stories now.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's like we can learn a lot because although a lot has changed, a lot has stayed the same, and humanity essentially is very similar.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, David.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay, so let's talk about this section that we just read. Does anyone have a guess as to which book that comes from?
Yes. I think it's 100 years of solitude.
Could be. Why do you think it's 100 Years of Solitude?
Well, I have never read the book, but Petra Cotes is one of the persons that are described in the book.
Mm-hmm. Yep, characters are very recognizable. Anyone else have a different guess?
I think it's C.
Oh, Henry?
Henry.
All right. We'll find out all the answers at the end. And do you guys have any questions about how this is written or what's written here? Vocabulary questions? I know it's a little difficult and sometimes you have to read it through a few times before it makes a little more sense. But if I can help you with any of the individual words or structure, now's a good time to ask.
I forgot the meaning of ripeness.
Ripeness. Ripeness is...
Ripeness.
Let's see if anyone else knows. Can anyone else define the word ripe or ripeness for us?
It's just a level when the product is grown enough and we can take it. But in this, it's just the, I think, latest level of autumn. Maybe it's October, November, something like that.
Yeah, you're right. So ripeness is when something is at like its peak of taste. It's sweet, it's flavorful, and it's at a really good moment. So you eat fruit when it's ripe. And in this case, they're comparing the season to fruit or to something that's very sweet and very enjoyable. Any other vocabulary questions or structure questions from this pink section?
I think the right answer, Jane Austen. Persuasion.
Another guess. Jane Austen, Persuasion. She does write a lot of romantic work, and this is kind of a
Yes,
romantic...
because we read about love in this paragraph.
Yeah, she's a famous writer for romance. All right. Any other comments or questions on number 1? Any other guesses? All right. And, ooh, we have a new student whose name I cannot read because it's written in Arabic.
My name is Ahmed.
Oh, perfect. We have another Ahmed in class, so I'm going to call you Baby Ahmed since you have a picture of a baby. Is that all right? Or is there something else you'd like me to call you?
No, it's okay.
Okay. Well, then, Baby
I
Ahmed.
like it.
Welcome to class, and tell us what you think makes a good story or a good literature.
I think for a story, to live in that story or to have the experience of that story, not to imagine that story.
Imagination?
Yeah, I think to have or to have the experience of that story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good answer. Very good answer. All right. We're on to number 2 for our book sections, and this one's split into 2 because it's a little bit long. Ksenia, will you read the black part of number 2?
Okay. I can listen no longer in silence. I must speak to you by such means as are within my reach. You pierce my soul. I'm half agony, half hope. Tell me now that I'm too late, that such precious feelings are gone forever. I offer myself to you again with a heart even more your own than when you almost broke it, 8 years and a half ago.
Perfect. Thank you. And Diana, will you read the green section of this?
Okay, dare not say that man forgets sooner than woman. That is, that his love has an earlier death. I have loved none but you. Unjust I may have been, weak and resentful I have been, but never inconstant. You alone have brought me to bad. For you alone I think and planned. Have you not seen this? Can you fail to have understood my wishes? I have not waited even these 10 days. Could I have read your feelings as I think you must have penetrated mine?
Thank you very much. Beautifully read. This is kind of a formal one, So let's get some guesses. What book do you think this is from? It's actually kind of romantic as well. Both of these two have been romantic.
I think Jane Austen.
Could be Jane Austen. Any other guesses? No? All right. Then let's talk about vocabulary, structure. Do you guys have any questions on this one? Things are a little bit different than, say, most modern American English.
Yeah, I want to know the meaning of I am half agony.
Agony. That's an excellent vocabulary word. Can anyone define the word agony for us?
May I try?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's like a suffering, anguishing, anguishing.
Yeah, anguish, suffering. It's definitely related to pain. So he's saying, I'm half like pain and feel terrible, but also there's a part of me that's hopeful and happy. Yeah, before death. So agony is like before death. It's pretty negative feeling. Any other vocabulary questions?
Teacher.
Yeah.
It's not the vocabulary, but it's a bit difficult to understand.
Yeah, this is kind of a good example of a piece where reading can get hard, especially reading fiction and novels, because even a person who has a really good grasp on lots of vocabulary and sentence structure can still be thrown off by certain things like this in the second sentence, I must speak to you by such means as are within my reach. This part here, it's not a very common construction in English. It's pretty formal, and it's like separately all of these words, I'm sure you guys have seen them before. So it's like, oh, I recognize all of these words, but because they're in an order you've never really seen, it can be tough to understand. It definitely takes a few read-throughs. And yeah, just practice, practice, practice. And that's also not something that's easy to look up. You can't like Google Translate that section because it's not going to be exactly the same as any of the words are individually. Do you guys have specific questions on the structure or word combinations here that just seem like they don't make a lot of sense? Any sentences that don't seem clear? No? You guys are afraid to ask, maybe? You guys can keep looking through this, and if you you guys can pause and read through this a few more times, and then ask questions in the chat box too. So if you want to take a better look at it before you start asking about sentences, go ahead and take that time to do that. Put your questions in the chat box or ask me after we're done reading all the sections, however you guys want to do it. All right, any other comments or questions on number 2 before we move on to number 3?
I'm not sure that it could be a good example for explaining love to the girl in modern language, English. Is it right? It is a very poetic form of explaining.
Yeah, definitely. Very poetic. Formal and poetic, and that's another reason that sometimes it can be tough to read, because poetry and art sometimes takes some creative license and changes things around a little bit. So it can be a very unique way to write instead of just kind of plain normal English like you might see in a news article. Good point. All right. Then let's go on to number 3. And Carolina, your turn to read.
Okay. If you want to really hurt your parents and you don't have the nerve to be gay, okay, the least you can do is going into the arts. I am not kidding. The arts are not a way to make a living. They are a very human way to making life more bearable. Practicing an art, no matter how well or badly, is the way to make your soul grow. For heaven's sake, Sing in the shower, dance to the radio, tell stories, write a poem to a friend, even a lousy poem. Do it as well as you possibly can. You will get an
Uh-oh. Catalina, are you still there?
enormous hit.
Oh, sorry. I heard you cut out at the very end. Did everyone else
Oh,
hear the same
sorry.
thing?
My connection is really, really bad today. Sorry, teacher.
Oh, no, it was all good until the last two sentences. Just go ahead and reread the last two sentences.
Okay. Do it as well as you possibly can. You will get an enormous reward. You will have created something.
Awesome. Thanks. All right, guys, guesses about which book this is from? Anybody have a guess?
Maybe Joseph Heller.
Could be. Could be from Catch 22. Anyone else have a guess? All right, then we'll go with that. How about vocabulary and sentence structure? What do you guys think? This one's written, I think, pretty straightforward, which is nice. I definitely appreciate that when I'm reading. A lousy poem. Can anyone define the word lousy for us?
It's something about lonesome, boring, not interesting. No?
Yeah. So it could be boring or not interesting, or it kind of is just generally something that's not done very well. So he's saying, even if it's like not amazing, critically acclaimed work, even if it's not professionally done, just do it anyways, because it's going to be fun. How about the phrase, for heaven's sake? We have a good expression here. I like this expression. Does anyone know what for heaven's sake means? It's tacked on to the end of this sentence.
Very high level of please. I ask you, please.
Exactly. It's like please. And here he's just sort of using it to emphasize his point, or it's almost like he's just stressing it a little bit. So you can add for heaven's sake onto most things if you're like pleading or begging or just frustrated. You can say, oh, for heaven's sake. You can add it on. It's kind of a cute little phrase. And it's nice because a lot of phrases like that, they might be profane, but this one is not profane. You can say this in any situation, in front of kids or formally or informally. All right. Any other comments or questions on number 3? Awesome. Anatoly, will you read number 4?
They're trying to kill me, Josarian told him calmly. No one's trying to kill you, Clevenger cried. Then why are they shooting at me? Josarian asked. They're shooting at everyone, Clevenger answered. They're trying to kill everyone. And what difference does that make?
Awesome. Thank you. Another one of my favorite books. Any guesses about which book this came from?
Catch 22.
All right. Why do you think this one's Catch 22?
I think it's a lot of action. I think it's for sure Catch 22. I think it's something about fantasy. I don't know how to say not fantasy. No?
Yes, I agree that it's very action-packed, and I'm not sure what you mean by fantasy, like...
It's like fight, a lot of fights in there, something like that.
Yeah, definitely. Anyone else have a guess?
Hmm, maybe it is Gabriel Garcia Marquez.
Could be.
I'm not sure. Mhm.
Why do you guess that one?
I read this book. I didn't. I don't remember names, but style could be possible, I think.
Could be. All right. Any other guesses? Any questions about vocabulary or situation or sentence structure? This one's also pretty straightforward, I think. Okay. Then let's move on to number 5, the green section. And Anna Carolina, it's your turn to read for number 5.
Okay. There will never be a perfect breakfast eaten until some man grows arms long enough to stretch down to New Orleans for his coffee and over to Norfolk for his rolls and reaches up to Vermont and digs a slice of butter out of a spring house, and then turns turns over a beehive close to a white clover patch out in Indiana for the rest. Then he'd come pretty close to making a meal on the ember that the gods sit on Mount Olympia.
Awesome. Thank you. Got a lot of good description there. What book do you guys think this is from? We've got some
think it is
clues.
Mark Twain.
Okay, could be Mark Twain. Why do you guess Mark Twain?
Because New Orleans was mentioned here, and other geographical Indiana, for example.
Yeah, this one has a lot of specifically U.S. landmarks and stuff, so you know it's got to be an American author, for sure. Any other guesses?
It can be Man Without a Country, but I'm not sure. But it for sure not Mark Twain.
All right. Yeah, Kurt Vonnegut is another American author. And it even mentions country in the title, so that would make sense. Any other guesses? All right, let's go to questions then. I see one in the chat box, stretch down. So in the first sentence here, we're talking about Long's arm enough to stretch down to New Orleans. Or New Orleans, you can pronounce it both ways. Anyone have an idea what they're talking about here?
It's just rubber. It's how to say, just in your imagine, just very long arms, so you can just hold your arms, and maybe if you're in Moscow, you can take some sandwich from St. Petersburg and eat it.
Exactly. It's a very imaginative section. Like, to stretch is like to reach all the way down across 2 states. So not exactly a likely scenario, but it's an interesting image to think about. And amber? Anyone know what amber is?
It is a building which is made from the wood, usually.
A building made from wood?
Yes, near main building on the farm. I'm not sure. Maybe I.
No.
I'm not sure I know what you're talking about. Maybe a barn is what you're thinking of?
Maybe.
No, we have in Russian language ambar, I think. You just
maybe.
yes.
So what is it?
It's diamonds. It's a stone, diamond stone.
It is a
like
stone.
that.
It's a kind of stone that comes from
it's not a diamond.
So it's actually like the sap that comes from trees, if it gets really old, it gets hardened into this beautiful crystal that can be made into jewelry. And here he sort of says that it's what the gods eat. Like they eat beautiful crystals, I guess. It's kind of a weird comparison, but that's what it is. Any other questions about vocabulary or sentence structure or sentence meaning here? All right, we've got one more. Yeah, just one more. And this one has 2 sections, and they're going to be for, the first section, the black section, is going to be for Ahmed with the black screen, and the purple section is going to be for Ahmed, baby Ahmed. Go ahead, guys, read it for us.
Okay. It made me shiver, and I about made up my mind to pray and see if I couldn't try to quit being the kind of a boy I was and be better. So I kneeled down, but the words wouldn't come. Why wouldn't they? It weren't no use to try and hide it from him, nor from me, neither. I know it very well why they wouldn't come. It was because my heart weren't right. It was because I weren't square. It was because I was playing double.
I was letting on to give up sin, but away inside of me, I was holding on to the biggest one of all. I was trying to make my mouth say I would do the right thing and the clean thing, and go and write to that nigger's owner and tell where he was. But deep down in me, I knowed it was a lie, and he knowed it. He can't pray a lie. I found that out.
Thanks, guys. So this one actually gives us a lot to talk about. Do you guys have any comments? Let's go with comments first. This one's sort of unique among all the ones that are here. What's really different about this one?
Weren't. It's kind of writing.
Yeah. So this, what is it about that? What's weird about that?
I think it's just some kind of a dialect.
It is. It's a kind of dialect of English. It's from the South. So this book happens to be written in an American dialect, which isn't necessarily all grammatically correct. It's sort of unique. And this is not, that's why it says node instead of new. And it's highlighted in red because, of course, that word doesn't really exist except for in this dialect. So it's not standard. It's not book grammar English. It's a particular dialect found in the South that it's written in. So it's very culturally interesting, but also quite difficult to read if you're not familiar with a lot of these little differences. And also, one very important note is that it contains a word here, which is considered a very negative, pejorative term and is not in acceptable language use, but the time period that it's set in, that was a word that was much more common. So it's not a curse word here, even though it would be considered a curse word if you said it in any kind of conversation today. Any other?
I missed how we can translate. Can we translate a warrant?
Warrant?
Yes. What is full word? Warrant. Wasn't.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Wasn't would be just as easy. It wasn't any use. So if I had to like translate this sentence, for instance, here where it has warrant, I would say it wasn't any use to try and hide it. So not only does he use warrant, which isn't exactly how I would say it it's a contraction of were not, even though that's not the appropriate form of the verb for it. But he also uses a double negative, which is not proper in English either. Another very typical thing of this Southern dialect is instead of saying any, he's got two negatives. So were not, no use. Not typical, not standard, not considered correct in many ways. Any other comments or questions on number 6? We've got a couple new students. Vincenzo, welcome to class.
Good evening. Yeah.
How are you, Vincenzo? What do you think makes a good story or good literature?
I think it's debate what you like.
That's true. So what do you like?
Yes. No, it is not good what is good or beautiful what's beautiful, but what you I think.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I agree with you, but tell us more about what you think makes a book beautiful. Is it the storyline?
It's very
Is it?
difficult.
Yeah, it is difficult to define.
Yes, difficult to define. Depends on your teacher. Yes, it depends also on how are you feeling about the day, the weather, something like this. Mm.
Any favorite books you want to describe?
Yes, but right now I'm interested only in the English language and also language. So my interest toward kind of studies. Sometimes I was very interested about spirituals, but it's right now. It's not this way right now. I have changed. When I was with my friends, we were very interested in such kind of books, spiritual books, but right now. So I think it depends from the moment of the moment in your life. I don't know say exactly. I have abandoned this kind of study, or kind of reading big books. So I can say no.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you for giving us a little bit more.
What about you, teacher? Do you have a particular books that you like?
Yeah, we're reading a few segments from some of my favorite books, and in a minute we're going to talk about the authors that I chose and some of my favorite ones. But things that I think are important are language and so yeah, I like things that are written in a pretty clear way. We already discussed that. Sometimes if they're too formal, it seems a little boring or a little hard to understand, even though that's worth reading as well. There's definitely value there too.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's get back to the exercise. Does anyone else have a comment or question on number 6?
I think it's the adventure of Huckleberry Finn.
Yeah, that's a good guess. Does anyone else have a guess?
It's for sure, I'm agreeing.
What'd you say, Ksenia?
It's for sure the last one. I'm agree. It's
All
Mark
right.
Twain. Mm-hmm.
All right. And Stone? Was that a question someone had? I don't even see that in the here. Where is that word? I don't see the word stone in here. No? Okay. All right. So, yeah, our options are Kurt Vonnegut, A Man Without a Country, Joseph Heller, Catch-22, O. Henry, Hostage to Momus, Jane Austen, Persuasion, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, 100 Years of Solitude, Mark Twain, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. Those are all of our options. We just read all of them. Any questions or comments on any of the segments we read before we find out who all of these books sections belong to? Cool, let's find out. So I'm going to copy paste these into the chat box so you guys can compare, and then I'm going to scroll back up so you can see the sections again. I think you guys did a pretty good job of naming them. Oh yeah, and there's no 7, so. All right. You definitely got the last one right. The first one, that romantic one, was actually Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I think someone guessed that one for number 1. Yeah, someone said the name reminded them of Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Number 2 is Jane Austen. Again, I think someone mentioned that because it's a very romantic one. She's famous for romance. Number 3 is Kurt Vonnegut. It's his very, I think it's recognizable because he's very direct, like he's poetic and he writes beautifully, I think, but it always comes off as very simple and easy to understand, which I think is hard to do. It's like, it's super beautiful, but it all seems, it's like he does something difficult and makes it look very easy. I wish I could write like that. I've never been a writer myself, but I think he writes very well. Number 4 is B, Joseph Heller, Catch-22. Another one of my very favorite books. Might be my all-time favorite, I don't know. It's hard to say. Number 5 is O. Henry. He's one of my favorite authors for beautiful descriptions. And he writes a lot about the US, which I think is super beautiful. I mean, he writes about areas that I've never been, so it kind of like, I don't know, I think it's a very beautiful image he creates of these cute places that are very, not, they're very romantic images of like small towns. And the last one is, wait a second. The last one is Mark Twain. Yeah, the last one's Mark Twain, which you guys got, of course. Questions or comments? I want to know which of these sections you guys liked the best. And Vincenzo, I'm going to give you a minute to look over these because I know you missed when we were reading most of them. So try and read
Yes,
1 or 2 of these.
I was very late.
No, that's okay.
Yes, I was
While
very
I
late,
ask
but I
the
don't.
other students, go ahead and read, and then when I get to you, you can ask any questions you have, and I'll get your opinion on some of them. So I'll start at the other end with Ahmed. Do you have a
Yeah, very
favorite of
short
these?
one. Yes, I would like to read something about Garcia Marquez.
All right, Ahmed, give us your opinion. Which is your favorite here? Ahmed, are you there? You're muted. All right, Ana Carolina, your turn. Do you have a favorite? Tell us which one was one you liked more, or maybe if you didn't like any of them, tell us why.
No, I like it. I liked all of them, but I liked more a persuasion and also the last one.
And why were those your favorites?
I don't know. Persuasion because it's romantic, it's poetic, and the adventures of Huckleberry Finn because I like adventure and I think it's I don't know a bit sad somehow. I don't know. I like I want to read those books now.
Awesome. Anatoly, do you have any favorites here?
When I was teenager, I read Mark Twain, but I read in my native language.
Mm-hmm.
And when I thought about reading book in English, when I tried to read a classical book, I had a hard time because language is very difficult and
Mm-hmm.
understanding more difficult than if I chose modern literature.
Mm-hmm.
And for that reason, probably I would find something with modern language for reading in English.
Yeah, definitely. It's a little more helpful if you can find something that's at least most of what you already are used to get you to tip your toes into the water a little bit. Okay. Diana, do you have any favorites here? Diana, are you there? You're muted. Okay. Ksenia, what was your favorite? If you had.
Jane Austen Persuasion,
How
I
come?
think. Because I like the way she describes the simple things like love. I like this interesting thoughts, her thoughts, and I like the sentences also.
Mm-hmm. Beautifully written work, for sure.
Yes.
Thanks, Ksenia. Now, which was your favorite?
I was struggling just keep up, but I want to lead number 3. I like to lead a poetry novel in Japanese, so I hope someday I can lead the number 3. I'm interested in.
That's a good start too. I think Kurt Vonnegut, like I said, is he
You said
writes in
poetry.
yeah. He writes very clearly and in modern language, so it should be a good start for a book to read in English.
Yeah, I will look for this. His
His.
books.
Awesome. He's got a lot out there.
Hmm.
All right, Vincenzo, your turn to ask questions or tell us if you saw anything you liked here.
Teacher, I can't understand very well. I'm not reading. I'm not reading the story. So he has. If I just by this paragraph, I would like to read it. But I must say, I haven't read any of this book right now. So I can tell something about.
All right. Well, if you're looking for something to start with, section number 4 that we read, that one should at least be all words that you recognize. And I think that one's a pretty clever one too because it creates this really funny situation, but with very everyday vocabulary. All right. We've only got a few minutes left, but with our last few minutes, let's talk about books that have been turned into movies. Do you guys have any favorite books that have been turned into movies? Made good movies? You can shout this one out.
All Stephen King's book.
Yes,
I
I
like all of
saw
them.
Harry Potter. I love Harry Potter, and also I've read a book when I was a teen, Pollyanna. They made a old-fashioned movie about this book. Yes, it's old-fashioned, but in my opinion, it's timeless
Mm-hmm.
because I like the moral, you know.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of books that are made into movies are because they have withheld or withstood the test of time, and they're things that need to be transferred to more audiences. Anyone else have a favorite book that was turned into a movie? I see now put in Momo. I'm not sure I know that book or movie.
It's written by Michael Ende. Is German philosophyist.
Oh.
Yeah, do you know about it? Never-ending Story is also written by him.
Oh, okay. So he's got more than one. I'll have to check it out. I've never seen it.
He's very nice. He often write for child literature, but so many philosophy in the simple story. So
awesome. Anyone else have a suggestion?
I read in English the book The Great Gatsby by Fitzgerald, and I saw two versions of a movie with the plot from
Yeah,
this.
it's so good. I loved it. I mean, I loved the book, and I thought the movie was really well made. I had to watch it a couple times, but in the end, I think they did a really good job of turning it into a creative production that kind of held true to the book. All right, guys. We're about out of time. I have another class coming up right now that's about household vocabulary. So little words that you might encounter every day that you don't necessarily see in a lot of English classes. And maybe I will see you guys there. Thanks for coming and hanging out with me, and I'll see you guys another time. Bye!
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Bye, teacher. Thank you, teacher. Bye.